Ever find yourself fumbling over your plucking hand, like it's just not at all coordinated? If so, then you need to check out this video. I'm going to share with you an amazing plucking hand workout regime that will tighten up your plucking hand, make sure everything is as coordinated and precise as possible, and we're actually going to be using real-world songs as well as borrowing a genius idea from the way that drummers practice. It's going to be fun. Welcome to Become a Bassist, where it is all about insanely practical, no BS bass lessons designed to get you playing better bass, having more fun, and becoming the best bassist you can be. And today that means really focusing in on your plucking hand, you know, the one that does all the mother-plucking work. Now, usually, if you're right-handed, that means your right hand. If you're left-handed, obviously it's your left hand. And to do this, we are actually going to borrow an idea that drummers use all the time called paradiddles. Now, the very first part of this workout regime is great for getting you to, first of all, use both the fingers in your plucking hand if you haven't already started to do that, or refine your coordination and your plucking hand kind of dexterity if you have. Now, it involves just playing a super simple, straight, pumping eighth note line and working on your plucking hand's internal coordination because, you know, if your fingers aren't coordinated in a single hand, there's almost no chance of them being coordinated when you add in the fretting hand as well, right? So, let's jump in. Now, ordinarily, if you're playing like a pumping eighth note line, it might look something like this. You know, in the plucking hand, you might be alternating fingers like this. Or if you're not comfortable alternating, you might just be using one finger like that. Or maybe this one. You know, no matter where you're at right now though, what I want you to do is take your plucking hand and instead of just using one finger or alternating between them, I want you to use a very specific paradiddle pattern. If we number the index finger 1 and the middle finger 2, the pattern will be 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2. This means you'll end up playing a sort of irregular pattern where sometimes you're just playing one note and sometimes you're playing two with each finger. So this 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2 pattern, this is a drummer concept that I mentioned before, that thing about paradiddles, right? Drummers will practice, you know, hitting their drums in this kind of alternating pattern, except they use left and right for each hand. So they'll go left, right, left, left, right, left, right, right, and, you know, helps to limb coordination, you know, all that stuff. The stuff that drummers use to coordinate all their body, we're just focusing in on it for a single hand. But that is exactly what we use it for. We use it to tighten up our plucking hand coordination, make everything super precise. Because this is a pumping eighth note line, you can actually pretend like you're playing a real song. Maybe something like AC/DC's Thunderstruck just starts off with this kind of huge swath of B, nothing but B for ages. So let's put on this Thunderstruck practice track, a slower version first, and start off by just playing this, you know, how you normally would, and then we'll switch over and start playing this paradiddle pattern. So we're going 1, 2, 1, or I'll start with the index finger. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And then switch over, start playing this paradiddle pattern. Right, here we go. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1. Just over and over again. 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1. Yeah? Now, if you're doing this for the very first time, it's probably going to feel a little bit weird. And by the way, if you need all the tabs and tracks from this video, they're all available as a free download on the site. There's a link in the description for you. But like I said, doing this paradiddle thing is probably going to feel a bit strange, but this is what's going to help you gain the facility and the internal coordination in your plucking hand, which is going to make playing other more trickier bass lines way, way easier. 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2. Just like that. When that's relatively comfortable, we're also going to reverse this pattern as well. So we'll end up playing 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1 over and over again. Now, some people actually prefer to kind of lead or start with their middle finger. I'm one of those people. I'm way more comfortable leading with my middle finger than the index one. So this pattern's probably way more natural to me. But, you know, that's just me. Some people are way more comfortable leading with their index finger. But it is great to be able to do both. Now, as you are doing this, you want to make everything as even as possible. You want to try and make sure that it sounds just like you're playing a regular old eighth note bass line and make every note as consistent as possible. So let's try that with starting on the 2, 4, 2, 1, 2, 2. 1, 2, 1, 1, just like that, right? Try and make everything as, even in sound, volume, tone, everything. When you're comfortable with both of these patterns though, and they're nice and consistent, the next step is to add in some accents into that pumping eighth note line. So let's start by accenting the notes on beat 1 and beat 3. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and those are going to be our accents. I'll use the pattern that starts on the middle finger just because that's, more natural to me. 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2. Let's get these accents. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. 1, 3. Yeah? That means I'm getting a big accent on my middle finger first. 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1. And then a big accent on my middle index finger. So 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1. That's hard to play and speak at the same time. 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1. But you can also do it beginning on other fingers as well. So you might be 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2. That's fine as well. When you're doing these, really accent the ones you're supposed to be accenting and really, de-emphasize everything else. Make it really, really obvious, and that's going to help you get the most out of this exercise. You can also do the exact same thing, but accent every single beat. That would sound more like this. If you're starting on the index finger, you'd have 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2. It means you're getting accents on 2 index fingers. 1, 2, 1, 1, and then 2 accents on middle fingers. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, just like that, right? And from there, of course, you have to do the reverse as well. Start on the middle finger. 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, up, 1, 1. So with the track, it might sound something like this. 3, 4. Oh, messed up. 3, 4, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1. Yeah? Gets a little bit trickier when you start to add in the accents and you have to keep track of where you are in that paradiddle. Now go as slow as you need to get everything nice and clean with these. Like I said before, you want to make sure that your internal, plucking hand coordination is there before you move on and start adding other notes into the mix. When you are ready though, let's move on to level 2. This is where we can start doing the thing that so many bassists struggle with, string skipping. Now we'll start by just moving to adjacent strings and then we'll ramp it up in level 3. So that paradiddle we were using just before, let's use that same idea, but add some extra strings and extra notes. Let's start off by using this E, 7th fret on the A string, and this B, 9th fret on the D string. And all we're going to do is plug in that paradiddle into those notes. So you'll go E, B, E, E, B, E, B, B. And for now, just have one finger for the A string and one finger for the D string. So I'm using my index finger on the A string, middle finger on the D string. Of course, you can do the reverse as well. B, E, B, B. Yeah, just keeping your index finger playing the A string and the middle finger playing that D string, that's fine as well. Now, once you're reasonably comfortable with that, I want you to keep the same notes, the same paradiddle, but give yourself a little bit more flexibility in terms of which plucking fingers play which notes. So for example, when you have 2 E's in a row, it might make sense for you to play the first with the index finger and then the second with the middle. Yeah, so let me show you what I mean right here. So I might go... I'm not strictly saying my index finger only plays the A, middle finger only plays the D. It's not like that at all. So, you know, most of the time if I'm playing double notes, I'm playing them with different fingers. I'm going... I have to think about what I'm doing. It looks like every time I'm playing two of the same note, I'm leading with my middle finger. So it's always middle, middle, and then the next note. So now, this is where what feels good for me might not necessarily feel good for you in terms of which fingers play which notes, and vice versa. This is a place where you can really figure out exactly what works for you and, you know, what feels natural for your hands. When you do that, it is time to take the skill and apply it to an actual song, and a great one to use for this particular level 2 drill is the Beatles' I Saw Her Standing There. Incredible bass line, and it sounds like this. 2, 3, 4. Now, as far as which plucking fingers play which notes, it doesn't really matter that much. Now, no one can tell if you're using, you know, your index finger or your middle finger or anything else. All they can tell is, you know, whether what you're playing sounds good to them or not. Now, ideally, you get to the point where you don't necessarily have to think about which finger is doing what, you know? I'm not consciously thinking like, start with the middle finger for that one, then for the G sharp. I'm not kind of going into that kind of granular detail in my mind. I know what sound I need to create, so I kind of let my fingers do what feels good to them. However, I've been doing this for a long time, right? I've built up that kind of intuition over years of trial and error, so, you know, I don't really have to think about it that much anymore, and that's totally normal. And by the way, this is a challenging bass line when it comes to coordination. If you need to use the slower practice tracks, by all means, go for it. That is exactly what they're there for. And if you want to download them for yourself, just click the link in the description, fill out that form, and I'll send them straight to you totally free. Using the slower track though, it'll sound like this. 2, 3, 4. Much friendlier, right? But still a big workout for that plucking hand. So level 1 was the internal coordination in the plucking hand. Level 2 was getting used to, you know, skipping from one string to an adjacent string. And in level 3, we are going to be truly skipping strings, which is a little trickier still. Let's use the exact same kind of exercise from our level 2 example, but instead of going from the A string to the D string, let's go from the A string to the G string. Yeah, so we're truly skipping a string. And for this, let's use octave Ds right here. 5th fret on the A string, 7th fret on the G. And let's use the same kind of idea, our same kind of paradiddle with one plucking finger per string. So in this case, we get low, high, low, low, high, low, high, high, all Ds. And you can also reverse it starting on the high D. The exact same exercises as before, but you know, this time we're doing true string skipping now. And as before, the next step is to give yourself a little bit more flexibility and figure out how to play both of these paradiddle patterns with the fingers that make the most sense to you. So for me, at that tempo, starting on that low D, I'd probably play that. Now, when I think about it, it messes it up. You know, I've been doing this for a while, so this isn't something I really consciously think about that much anymore, but this is where you can really, really experiment, figure out what works for you and your hands. It might be that you always lead with one finger and you only ever use the other one when you're playing a doubled note. You might find that coming from the G string, it's always more comfortable to use one finger or the other, regardless of which one played that final note on the G string. This is part exercise, kind of part journey of self-discovery as well. But once you've figured it out, it is time to apply this to a real-world song. And for this final one, we're going to be using a classic disco octaves bass line from Royce's Car Wash. It sounds like this. 3, 4. Just over and over, all octaves. Now we've got D, B sharp, D, B, C, C sharp, and D. So fifth, and all in octaves, so 5th and 7th frets on the D. For the B, 2nd and 4th frets, 3rd and 5th frets for the C, and 4th and 6th frets on the A and G strings right there. Back to your D. Now, just playing it as 8th notes is the first part. You know, you really get into that kind of string skipping stuff. I mean, you can play that with one plucking finger if you want. That's just using my index finger. If I just use my middle, you can probably get away with that if you wanted to. But once the 8th notes are under your fingers, the next level of right-hand coordination is to add in some little 16th note skips on that G string right here. So just like this. Now, at first, we're just going to be adding the little 16ths on the D and the C. So there, on the D and the C. Yeah? So while we're doing this, really try and figure out how to play this in a way that makes sense for you. For me, I like playing my low notes with my index finger and leading the 16ths with my middle finger. You might be the same, you might be different, but you won't know until you try it for yourself. And I definitely recommend starting out with, you know, one of the slower practice tracks on this to just kind of get your fingers and everything around it. 3, 4. Now the next step above that one is to put the 16th on every single note on the G string, so on all the notes. So just like that, right? So with the track, it's going to sound like this. 3, 4. Now again, here I'm playing A string notes with my index finger and then leading the 16th with my middle finger every single note. So index, middle, index, index, middle, index. This really starts to become a kind of workout at this stage. And if you want to make things really intense, you put 16ths on every single note, low and high. 3, 4. Yeah. Now this is tricky. This is definitely challenging. And when I'm doing this, I'm kind of at this point, very strictly alternating with starting with my middle finger. That's just because that's what works for me. My middle finger is way more kind of comfortable leading. But if I was to try and do that with the actual performance tempo, 3, 4. Not 100% clean at that tempo, right? So I need to go back and really take things a bit slower, work up to that tempo with all those 16ths. Now, I've been saying a ton during this video that you really have to figure out, which fingerings and everything work the best for you. And the absolute best way to do that is to actually try these exercises and try these bass lines for yourself. And to make that as easy as possible, I've made the tabs and notation of all the bass lines and the exercises, as well as the practice tracks available as a free download on becomeabassist.com. So just click the link in the description or right here and head to the form on that page, and I'll send it straight to your inbox, and you can be supercharging your plucking hand coordination in no time at all. So I will see you in there.